I'm Jenni Carlson.
I'm Barry Trammell. Welcome to the Jenni and Berry Show. It's been 4 years since the Thunder made the playoffs, and since that last go-round was in the bubble, it's actually been 5 years since we've had a playoff game in Oklahoma City. That changes Sunday night. Welcome back, playoffs. How we have missed you.
Boy, have we. We'll talk about all that and much more, but before we get to any of that, we want to ask you to subscribe to our show. Just hit that subscribe button, and it might not seem like a big deal, but it will help us, and that helps you. So subscribe today. We also want to say thanks to these sponsors for supporting the Jenni and Berry Show. MidFirst Bank, Next Gen Roofing, Two Fellas Movers, the Oklahoma Ford Dealers Association. Drive into your best in Oklahoma Ford dealers today for the best deals on Ford's full lineup of trucks and SUVs. Ford is the best in Oklahoma. Barry, I know I'm fired up about the playoffs returning to Oklahoma City. You're right, that last go-around in the bubble, it was exciting. It was against Houston. We had the big Lou Dort game. I mean, it was a good playoff series, but it wasn't here in Oklahoma City. So, what have you missed most not having a playoff game in Oklahoma City for 5 years?
Well, a ton of things, dozens of things. We've talked about them. We're going to talk about them. But I think the thing I've missed most is just the buzz around town. Just sort of the spirit in the air. Engineer extraordinaire Jacqueline Ferris Musgrove right here. She just talked about going out and getting a Thunder flag for the flagpole at their house. And just the idea that everybody's talking about the Thunder. Everybody's looking forward to the game that night. Everybody's talking about the day after, talking about the game the night before. Just the way it brings the community together and sort of everybody became a spring tradition in Oklahoma City for that decade. And I think those days are back. I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, that's going to be fun. And, part of that is game night, the atmosphere around the arena. We had Thunder Alley before that got cut back a little bit. Now there's going to be some pregame activity over at Scissortail Park, which we didn't have Scissortail Park the last time the Thunder had a home playoff series. Or a home playoff series here in Oklahoma City. So it's going to be great to see not only what it's like in the arena, but what it's like around downtown. Obviously having game one here on a weekend night. If they didn't have home court advantage, that first game would be a weeknight game more than likely. And, it might be a little bit different. So having that weekend, people can come downtown. They can, be around the arena, whether they're going in or not. So I think having, some version of we're probably not going to call it, well, we may call it Thunder Alley just because we're used to it. But having that sort of just that community gathering, I think is going to be great. And then I'm excited to see the nation take stock of what's going on here in Oklahoma City. We got a sense of that a little bit last year, Barry, with the play-in games that the Thunder was in, and everybody said, oh, hey, look at this team. This is a young, exciting, good team. They're about to be really, really good. Well, there's going to be more exposure nationally. You're going to have, those TV announcers that we love, Barry, whether it's a Mike Breen or, if TNT eventually gets here, getting to see Charles Barkley and all those guys, Ernie Johnson. Obviously, there's some negatives with that. The national narrative right now is that the Thunder is as a susceptible number one seed as there's been in a while. I don't know about that, but I think the national attention is going to be fun to see how that plays out.
Yeah, and you know what? We're sort of blessed because we're on the inside. We get backstage at the Paycom Center, those kinds of things. So when we talk about the national attention and Mike Breen coming to town, that doesn't mean we get to listen to Mike Breen. We get to talk to Mike Breen. Yeah. And he's a sweetheart of a guy, by the way. Doris Burke, his sidekick, ESPN, she's fantastic. So just getting to mingle with those kinds of people and getting their perspective on Oklahoma City and the Thunder is wonderful for the likes of you and me. Yeah. And hopefully we can sort of transmit that information to the readers and the people of Oklahoma. You're right, it brings national attention on a negative way at times. But listen, don't worry about that stuff. Don't listen to national narratives. Who cares? I don't care what people in New York think of me. I don't care what they think of my state. It's nuts. Just don't worry about it. Just enjoy this spotlight that's coming to Oklahoma City. We saw it with the Durant era. This national spotlight that the Thunder brings is far and away positive. a net positive. So it's going to be great for the city. It's going to be great for the state. Going to be great for the sports scene. Going to be great for Oklahomans.
Yeah, and let's not forget, it's not like the Thunder lucked into the number 1 seed. They won 57 games in the West. I mean, this is a legitimate team that beat really good teams down the stretch that were trying to get themselves into better position for the playoffs. So, yeah, nationally, people can say whatever they want, and they will. But I think that's pretty clear this is a really good team. Hey, something that I know, because we've had a discussion about this in the past, I know we disagree on, Barry. Shirts for the games. This has become a regular occurrence for the Thunder. They put out freebie shirts on the seats. People have even taken to collecting these, having full collections of these shirts. People seem to enjoy it. Stadium's the same color, but I like it. You don't. Why are you anti-fun, Barry? Why?
I think it's one of the worst ideas I've ever seen. Who in America, who on planet Earth can stand by the mantra of one size fits all? Maybe in North Korea they like that kind of stuff. This idea of, hey, let's put out a shirt on every seat and then you wear it during the game. I don't know if you've studied the fan base of Oklahoma City. Not everybody's the same size. We got people that weigh 80 pounds. We got people that weigh 350 pounds. We got people that are 4'7". We got people that are 6'8". We're all different sizes and shapes, and let's all put on the shirt that's the same size. I think it's nuts. I hate the pregame where they scan with the camera and try to shame people who don't have the shirt on. And sometimes, to their credit, some people don't give in to the peer pressure and don't put it on. Most do. The worst part, though, is I don't know if anybody's noticed, but the hot weather has arrived. I think it was 89 yesterday.
Yeah.
It's going to get hotter and hotter and hotter. Guess what the Paycom Center gets during late spring? It gets hot. Outside, it gets hot inside. So the Thunder's solution is put on another layer of clothes. I just think it's a disastrous idea. I wish we would. I thought the playoff break from, as you said, from 19 to 24, 5-year break, could have ditched this one, put this one in Lake Overholser. But no, we're bringing it back.
I mean, I haven't heard that it's a for sure, but it feels like it's going to happen. I think I did hear that they are doing it. Okay. Well, there you go.
There you go.
What you said about, I don't like the pregame shaming of people to put the shirts on. I think that's a little bit much, but the effect is really cool.
It is a good look. You're right. It's a great look. No doubt about it.
It just, I get it. I understand why people wouldn't want to do it if it is, if you take a kid to the game, which there are people that take kids to the playoff games, it's like a dress or, down to their ankles. It's a ridiculous thing, but the look is great. And maybe it's one of those things that, hey, you do it at tip off. And then if people want to change out of the shirt and go back to their normal attire and then put it back on in the fourth. Okay. Maybe there's a compromise there, but man, the look is so cool. That's the thing that I go back to. It just looks awesome.
Yeah. I wonder if we could get into some psychedelic type patterns instead of, usually it's a white out or blue out. And every once in a while they'll go every other section changes color. How about every other row or every other seat? Maybe we could do some. Maybe we could
patterns.
We could do all kinds of cool things. You're too young to remember this, but in college football, they used to have these. They used to call them cards. What were they? Something.
Oh yeah, you lift up a placard.
A placard. In your seat, and it would spell out something to do something. People switch seats too much to probably make that work very well. But I don't know. It just seems like a bad idea. Trying to salvage something out of it is about the best we can do.
Hey, I mentioned earlier kids, and there's no doubt that there are going to be lots of kids, whether in the arena or outside the arena, who are going to make memories. But frankly, Barry, the playoffs are a time of memories for everybody that's watching the Thunder. And, we've had some great moments in Thunder playoff past. We're going to have more coming up, whether this year or in years to come with this team. So as you think about the memories of the past, stuff that we now have in the front of our head, which is sure to get pushed to the back as this new iteration of the Thunder plays more playoff games. What are those things right now that stand out as favorite memories of playoffs past?
Well, the one I think I would say, and most people probably would say, was 2010, first playoff series, Lakers, defending champs, on their way to winning it again. Thunder played them really good. 6-game series. Game 6 goes to the wire. Thunder loses on a Paul Gasol putback at the buzzer. And it was deflating because, they got this fabulous season. Building, great series, playoff series. Oh! And then Paul Gasol puts the ball in the basket, and the final buzzer goes off, and the season is over. And just everybody was deflated. But within a few seconds, I don't know, 5 seconds, 10, 30 seconds, I can't remember. Time warps your perspective. The fans in unison, standing, start applauding for the Thunder. A losing team gets a standing ovation on the professional level. I thought it spoke to many things, the passion of the Thunder fans, but also sort of the innocence of the Oklahoma City market. And now we didn't care if people thought we were rubes for cheering a losing team. We thought it was cool. That, to me, it represented the youngness, the youthfulness of the Thunder, a bunch of 21 and 22-year-olds, or at the time they were 21 and 20, I suppose. Yeah. So just, to me, it was just a beautiful moment, sort of ushered Oklahoma City into the national stage, on which they, by the way, stayed for a full decade.
Yeah. It's interesting as I think about that standing ovation. If the Thunder would have played a play-in game in Oklahoma City, like let's say they play that play-in game where they lose, don't make the playoffs last year. Do you think a similar scene might have played out? I think it might have. To improve 16 games, to go from not being in the conversation at all to finding itself in the play-in game, one step from the playoffs. I think that people might have cheered. Now, this year may be a little bit different because now they find themselves full-throated number 1 seed in the West. But if that game that lost to Minnesota had happened in Oklahoma City, I think you might have seen something similar a year ago.
I don't know. I sense that we're all grown up as a fan base. I mean, we're not.
Well, that's too bad.
It is too bad. You're exactly right. It is too bad. But, we're not packing the arena the way we did 14 years ago.
That's true.
The crowds are great, but you still see pockets of empty seats. The loudness is not the way it was. The passion, maybe it gets back there. Maybe it doesn't. I don't know. I just think that was a certain segment of time in which new to the major league market, new to this team of a bunch of young guys, younger than college teams with Durant and Westbrook and Harden and Ibaka, Jeff Green. And I just think it was a special place and circumstance that created that sentiment. I don't know that it could be replicated. I do think there was a lot of gratitude towards that team a year ago that sort of resurrected the Thunder. Yeah. But I don't know that there was a connection between the city that we had 14 years ago.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Obviously there are a lot of plays and moments that stand out. And, while that standing ovation might have been, one of those top line items, Barry, I'm reminded this week as I think about another playoff run, whether it's Kevin Durant sitting on the court at what was then Chesapeake Energy Arena with his back to Russell Westbrook shooting free throws in the final moments of a game. Chris Paul, when he wasn't playing with the Thunder, having a meltdown. Steven Adams, Barry. We can think about all sorts of stuff Steven Adams was involved with, whether it was getting into it with Zach Randolph or not getting into it, taking it, and then Zach Randolph gets suspended. But that fast break in San Antonio, now that didn't happen here, but that's an all-timer, Barry.
Yeah, one of my all-time favorite NBA plays. Of course, Stone Cold Steven Adams, probably my favorite Thunder of all time. But, we didn't even realize it at the time. But San Antonio, in the last minute of a tight game, San Antonio gets a 3-on-1 break. And Steven Adams literally guards the basket and the corner three on the same play. I think it was Ginobili missed. I can't remember if it's Ginobili, but I think it was. Anyway, San Antonio gets no points out of it. Thunder wins a tight game, wins the series. Just remarkable what he did. You mentioned the Chris Paul play. I still remember Chris Paul in the press conference, just distraught and just almost out of his mind, just shaking his head and looking at it. It's bad. just talking about his turnovers in the last 30 seconds. That's the kind of stuff that lasts a lifetime, and that's one of the beautiful things about having a major league franchise that's successful. I grew up reading my whole life, reading about New York City baseball in the 40s and 50s, and the three teams in town, all great, all fabulous players, and just the childhood memories that were made by a variety of people who went on to become writers. And I just think of all the kids in Oklahoma City 15 years ago, 10 years ago, who got those memories, and now we're about to get them again.
Yeah. You think about things like, cage matches with the Grizzlies and overtime games. And I mean, just those unbelievable series with Memphis.
I don't know if people appreciate that 14 Memphis series.
Unbelievable.
4 straight overtime games.
No.
Memphis, the Thunder won game 1, and then we went 4 straight overtime games in the playoffs. It was unbelievable. It was
unbelievable. Yeah, and just the physicality of those series was I mean, it was a treat to watch, and I'm sure to be in the middle of it was not a treat, but it was unbelievably fun. Those series with Memphis, I think of winning the Western Conference Finals in Oklahoma City, that buzz you talked about earlier, Barry, that buzz in the arena when you realize this team's going to go play for an NBA championship, that was a moment that I think the feeling in the arena was just unbelievable. Now, we can't talk about good stuff without bad stuff. Obviously, Patrick Beverley running into Russell, that's going to be an all-timer. Russ had his own mistake, though, Barry. Jump ball in Miami. Russell didn't seem to know what the heck was going on there.
Yeah, the one close game in the finals, Miami won game 3, 4, and 5. I think that was game 4, where tight game, last minute or two, jump ball late in the shot clock. At the time, the shot clock reset. Russ didn't know it. He takes a quick bad shot, which was actually a decent shot if the shot clock was expiring, but just things like that stick, and you think, oh, what? You go back to those finals. Thunder had home court advantage, and they win one of two. They win the opener, and then just don't show up in game 2.
Yeah.
Get down 15 in the first 5 minutes or something, and had fought back, made it semi-close. But you just think about what could have been, and that's the way it is in the playoffs. You think about, I mentioned New York City baseball. Let me promise you, there's still people around today talking about things that happened in the World Series of 1950s, and that's the great thing about sports is the memories they create and the conversations that they ignite for decade after decade after decade.
Well, and I think as we talk about some of this stuff, whether it's those 10th series with Memphis, repeatedly seeing the Spurs in high pressure situations, Patrick Beverley, the Rockets. I mean, Zach Randolph getting into it with Kendrick Perkins. I mean, the playoffs are when rivalries are really fostered, Barry. I mean, this Thunder bunch, they're, like I said before, the runway looks long for how long this group could be really good. So I suspect this is the playoffs when we start to get a sense of who some of those rivals are. We've seen it in the past, some of those things I mentioned. But to me, it's fun. I mean, we don't yet know as we sit here on Thursday morning who the Thunder is going to play on Sunday night. We know the two teams it could be the Kings or it could be the Pelicans. Those are two younger teams sort of on the rise. And those are the types of teams that you have to, I definitely think, that team that the Thunder plays, that could be the start of something. That could be the seed of, that sports hatred that we love. But I think that's something to watch in the next couple of years. Where does that disdain, where do those rivalries come from? They're really bred in the playoffs.
Yeah, and the thing is that the rivalries that were bred in the first go round, all those guys are gone. Unless they had happened to meet up with the Warriors, Golden State, 16, those guys are still around. But the Spurs that played the Thunder 3 times, none of those guys are left. The Grizzlies, they've already had their numbers retired in Memphis from those teams. The Rockets, let's see, the Thunder played the Rockets 3 times in the playoffs. All those guys are gone. So it's a new generation, basically. And you know what? It ought to be a new generation. It's been 14 years since this playoff thing started. And, you know, that's the cycle. Old timers like me remain, but everything else is new. So this could be the start of something cool. If you go deep, you can build and build and build with new rivals. You know, I was in the arena. What game was it? Anyway, a couple of weeks ago, Thunder had a home game. George Karl was in the stands, and he was the Nugget coach from, you know, I don't know when, mid 2005 to whenever, but he was the coach of the Nuggets in 2011.
Yeah.
When Denver and Oklahoma City played a really good first round series, 4 versus 5. Thunder won it in 5. But, you know, George Karl was always sort of a character, and he was always sort of an instigator. And, you know, it doesn't seem that long ago, 2011. But they showed George Karl sitting in the stands. Michael Cage talked about it. He actually played for George Karl at one point and talked about how he had lunch with him and things. And I saw George Karl, and it stunned me how old he looked. I mean, he didn't look anything like himself. And it made me realize more so the passage of time. And when you think about it, time moves fast in the NBA. You know, they don't have, you know, I spent 32 years at the Oklahoma, and nobody's playing for the Pistons for 32 years.
Yeah.
So things turn over quick. It's time for new rivals in the playoffs. Pelicans, who knows? Kings, you know, I think we're going to be here a while. So this very well could be the start of something semi-cool.
Hey, before we get out of here, obviously you got to have your stars play well. We know that from past experience and Thunder playoff experiences, but there's been a lot of big moments in Thunder playoff past by guys that weren't necessarily stars. And we don't yet know who those players for the Thunder this year could be to have a big moment. It's likely to happen, though, somebody off the bench or somebody that we don't expect. Is there one that stands out to you, Barry, as you think about whether it's a Reggie Jackson in Memphis or a James Harden? Now, obviously, he became big, but San Antonio when the world was young and he was just a third wheel with the other two here. Eric Maynor, is there sort of a guy that was unexpected that had a great game in playoff past that stands out in your memory?
Yeah, and you know what? Several. And you know what? I'll just tell you a couple of stories about them because people will remember the games, but maybe I can tell you something you didn't know. Game 4, 2014 in Memphis. Thunder's down 2-1 in the series. Game 4, Reggie Jackson has a phenomenal game. He scores 32 points. Down the stretch, a team with Russell Westbrook and Kevin Durant turned the ball over to Reggie Jackson, and down the stretch, he went one-on-one against the Grizzlies. And he took over the game. He basically won the game for the Thunder, 32 points. At the final buzzer, Reggie Jackson broke down, bawling incessantly. I think he knew what that night had meant for his career, which was somebody was going to pay him. Turns out it wasn't the Thunder, but Reggie Jackson was going to get a big NBA contract, and he did. Yeah. He did. So, you know, and I always liked Reggie when he was here, so I was very happy for him. We talked about Game 5 in San Antonio, Jacko. James Harden hit that big shot. He had hit a shot in Dallas to win the round 1 of the playoffs. And I suggested to the desk back at the Oklahoma, and I said, let's go with the headline, Home, James, meaning, hey, we won the series, let's go home.
Yeah.
The desk didn't like it. They didn't get it. They didn't know what Home, James meant, which is, of course, the reference to, you know, get in the limo and tell the driver, home, James.
They just weren't old enough as the answer to the question.
Bunch of young whippersnappers, as they always like to say. So 2 series later, game 5 in San Antonio, didn't win the series, but it put the Thunder up 3-2. And I wrote and said, listen, if we don't put Home James on this one, I'm going to go crazy. This time we did is a good headline. So that kind of stuff, that's the kind of things those are the kind of memories that are made in the playoffs.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, I think about Derek Fisher, who was a late addition to a couple Thunder teams, you know, a guy that came in late. They had great teams and you thought, well, you know, maybe he'll be used, maybe he won't. But Houston, game 6, 2013. Everybody remembers 2013 for the year that Russell Westbrook gets hurt. He's out. The Thunder is looking at moving on without him, but it takes Derek Fisher to have a huge game in game 6 to help the Thunder advance. That, Barry, I was looking back at that 2012-13 team, and just a fantastic team, a team that won 60 games in the regular season. And you never know. I mean, for crying out loud, all sorts of teams that are really good don't even make the NBA finals. And so the idea that team was going to win an NBA championship, I don't know. But man, that was a team and a half right there. And obviously they kept going for a while after the Westbrook injury, but you can't lose a guy that was playing at the level he was in those days. And they weren't long for the playoffs after that happened, unfortunately. But Derek Fisher gives them a little more life against Houston.
Here's what I remember. You know me, Jacko. I don't really get on the social media during the game. I sort of focus on the game and really know what's going on. But that's the one time I sort of missed something, and I caught it because Scotty Brooks said it after the game. Derek Fisher ended up just playing great. And in a tight game against Houston, in the closeout game, Derek Fisher's plus-minus was plus 32. And Scotty Brooks mentioned that, and I said, wait, what? And I looked, Derek Fisher was plus 32. So anytime he was on the court, the Thunder just dominated. It was pretty inspiring. It was pretty inspiring.
The only thing bigger than his plus-minus was his age. How old was he at that point?
30? I think he was 37 at that point. Let's see, he's born in Derek Fisher was born in 74, so he was 38.
Yeah.
He's 38 years old, Derek Fisher.
Well, I don't know about you, but I'm fired up for the playoffs, in large part because we don't know when these memories are going to be made, but we're going to have them. We know we're going to have them, so start to process those, Thunder fans. Enjoy it as the Thunder returns to the playoffs, 8:30 Sunday night at Paycom Center. We'll be there, but that's all the time we've got this week here on the Jenni Berry Show. Remember, subscribe to our show. It really does help us. And if you like what you hear, please leave us a review. You can find our columns, videos, and podcasts at selloutcrowd.com. That's also where you can sign up for our newsletters. We'll send content straight to your inbox. All you got to do is hit subscribe at selloutcrowd.com. Sign up today. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.